Mac, as you're as passionate a person as I know, you referenced the Unogwaja a little earlier on, and I mentioned at the very start. Talk us through how that started. I remember writing an article, I think it was 2011, for a website about my friend John, who was setting off on this trip, and I tried to be very polite about it, but I realised A, it wouldn't work, and B, it would never last. And you proved everybody wrong comfortably. What exactly is that Unogwaja?
So it was about 5 months before the 2011 Comrades Marathon, and I mean, I'd been involved in sport and all sorts of athletic endeavours, but not running marathons and whatever. And a guy came to me called Virpir van Zyl, Dr. Virpir van Zyl, an Afrikaans dentist, and I was staying at a friend's house, I was staying in the spare room, I wasn't paying rent. And he had heard of the history and the story, and sort of the Red Sock movement had started, and it's almost like a fluid thing that just moves, and it brings people to it all over the world, but it hasn't been like a formal, I mean, as you can see, this is my formal gear. There hasn't been any formal business structure to it. It's just been this thing that has started to capture people's imaginations and bring people together. And the history of, in the Second World War, and of Sidney Feinson. So Virpir is a really, like, one of the most avid Comrades history men I've ever met. And he arrived at the house I was staying, and he had a whole bunch of, like, sort of history books, hardcover books. And I was like, geez, so what's going on here? Like, I thought maybe it would be, what's that pyramid scheme that everyone freaks out at? But I was like, I didn't know what he wanted, and he sat down at the table and he started opening these books, and I saw there were Comrades Marathon books. And I was like, why on earth is this guy? And I was so intrigued to this guy had come here to share the story with me. And he started talking about Phil Masterton Smith, who at the time had never heard of him. And in 1931, Phil Masterton Smith became the youngest ever Comrades winner at age 19, and you have to be 20 now to run the race. So I was like, wow, that's quite incredible. But you know, why are you telling me? And obviously he's just like, just be patient. I always get too excited. I wanted him to hurry up. But he said in 1933, Masterton Smith, whose nickname was Unogwaja, which is the Zulu word for a rabbit, or umvuntla in Xhosa, he was nicknamed that by the locals in KZN because of his running in the mountains. And in 1933, he was living in Cape Town, and he couldn't afford the train fare from Cape Town to Pietermaritzburg to take part in the Comrades. But such was his will, or his determination, to be at this great race. I think everyone who's been part of Comrades and recognizes the role of Comrades in South Africa knows that there's something special about that race. But then, you know, suddenly for a guy in 1933 to have the will and courage to get on a bicycle and cycle from Cape Town to Pietermaritzburg, you know, you can take into account the bike conditions, the road conditions, the mentality at the time. I mean, it's quite normal to do crazy stuff at the moment. But back in 1933, in between wars and the Depression, yeah, it must have been a crazy thing. And basically, I was like, wow, and I had kind of goosebumps listening to that story. But still, it was like, okay, it's an incredible story, and why don't more South Africans know it? But again, why are you telling me? And he was like, just slow down a bit. And basically, on the 5th of June 1942, Masterton Smith lost his life in the Second World War in the Battle of Tobruk, which is the same battle that Sidney Feinson was captured in. And it was just like almost that moment. It wasn't almost, it was just a moment of, well, we're going to do this journey. And there was no logic, there was no reason. There were hundreds of people just saying, do it next time, you've got to qualify, you've got to train, you've got to have a bike, all of these things. And that was 5 months before the Comrades. And I just knew it was a journey you had to follow. And I knew it was more than just a ride and a run. I knew it was more than just a physical journey. And one thing that Unogwaja has done is it's brought South Africans together, whether we are big, small, coloured, not funny.
I'll give you that one. Everyone.
But yeah, it's brought us together, and it's like a story that just says, I want to be part of it. I want to support. I want to be here, and yeah, it's been incredible to think of between then and now how this story has emerged. How many people from not just all over South Africa, but all over the world have taken part. I mean, in 2013, I will never forget this. Just outside Ladyfrere, in the middle of the Eastern Cape, and we're kind of a bit split, and that particular stretch of road is pretty hairy, and. This kid starts running to the side of the road, and he must be like 9 or 10 years old, and he's got his hand in the air, and he's shouting, Unogwaja, Unogwaja. And it just had such a profound impact on me to know that this story is reaching people.